Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Europass Teacher Talks with Susan Galliano. I am a counselor and teacher trainer at the Florence branch of the Europass Teacher Academy, where we work with teachers from all over the EU and even beyond in course of education. And I myself specialized in courses connected to well-being in the classroom, motivation, communication, collaboration, and I'm very happy to be here with you today. So today we are going to be talking about a topic that is super hot, okay? And it is all about something that I think I have noticed over and over again in our classes that teachers are this is one of the biggest challenges that we're facing. And it is what researcher and professor of sociology at New York University, Jonathan Haidt, has defined the great rewiring of childhood. And so today we're here to talk about digital well-being and a bit about how no matter what's going on in your country or in your school, how we can also incorporate the experience that these students are having with technology, even if we are in a low-tech school or we are in, a school where, for example, individual devices like smartphones or tablets have been banned. We are still immersed in a situation where we have the first generation of humans who have been bathed in an experience of basically what has been called a phone-based childhood instead of a play-based childhood as it's always been. And so as people are coming in, I would just love for you to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. And as you are at the keyboard, if you could just let me know what country you are coming from. And my question to you is, what is your school or government's current policy about individual, like personal mobile phone use in the school? Okay, are you in a school? Just you can write, what's the current policy? And you could also let me know how do you think it's going? Is it working? Is it not working? Let me know in the chat, because right now we're in a very dynamic moment about lots of things, but about these kinds of policies, there's news every day about what schools are doing. So I've got the chat box is open in the comments, and let me know where are you from and what is the policy. Then in the meantime, what I really wanted to think about with you is the fact that our students are in this very interesting situation where they don't really, they come to school. They've been using their phones for years now. It's an extension of their hand. And we have kind of let the horse out of the barn. And because back in 2012, when we first started getting these front-facing cameras on these smartphones, that's where a lot of things started to change. Up until that time, we were using flip phones. We were using those wonderful Nokias. So shout out to all of our Finnish educators out there. Because with the flip phones that we had, the most exciting thing that our kids could do with them is maybe play Snake or something, one of these little games. Or another thing that was possible was, of course, we had tablets, and that was also a place where they could play games. But once around 2012 hit and the US market started really being flooded with these smartphones, we have seen a huge change. In the beginning, we were quite enthusiastic about it, optimistic. about the revolution that it was going to bring also to education. And now that we have experimented for the last 12 years, where some of the research is starting to catch up, and we're seeing what the real, let's say, what some of the issues have been. So I will make the screen a bit bigger. And in thinking about this digital well-being, the idea is that in this talk, it doesn't matter at what point you are in the journey, in your school or in your country. In this, there is underway this kind of great rewiring of childhood. And so, because of that, even if your school is not including a lot of, let's say the students are not using their smartphones in school, the moment they leave school, they are. And it also has an impact on what happens in school. So let's see, in today's talk, basically we're going to get into like the impact of the smartphones around the world, and what the research is saying, and what our politicians and our schools are saying, and then how these tech experiences can stimulate academic and social and emotional learning. So, of course, we've got lots of benefits, right, teachers? Let's say that now that we've got a certain amount of research, we see that, well, there is a bit of information coming from UNESCO from the 2023 Global Monitoring Report. And this report claims, and I think this is a very well-balanced answer. It claims that some technology can support some learning in some contexts. Now, because I know that we have a lot of tech enthusiasts in school, and that's a great thing. At the same time, we have some naysayers. And so something that we definitely have seen is that technology, well, first of all, it kept education from totally collapsing during the COVID-19 pandemic. I think we all agree. We might not all agree on how well it was used. We might not agree on how long it was used, but let's say that I think, teachers deserve a lot of credit for keeping a sense of normalcy and pivoting very quickly. In most cases, they had 24, 48 hours to learn how to use things that they'd never used before and somehow bring education to their students. Multiple technologies bring education to hard to reach learners, either because it's because of war, because of the fact that they live in remote areas. Sometimes it's also, like in the next point, that it's learners who have special needs, and they might not be able to come to school, or just inclusive technologies in general for all kinds of learners. Just thinking about speech to text, or thinking about even just something as simple as this YouTube. When we go to show it as a recording later on, people can also have the automated subtitles, and so they can follow along listening to English, but they can also read the subtitles in their language. So this is a way of adapting it so it's more inclusive. Technology also facilitates content creation. I mean, just the very fact that I was able to create a presentation using Canva today. It's fascinating when I think about when we were all children, and our teachers just had these transparencies that they had to kind of scribble on that was projected on the wall, and now we have so many other ways to engage our learners. And then, of course, digitization that simplifies content distribution, just like this. And some technologies can increase student engagement. Now, we do need to think if engagement always means deep learning. That I'm not always so sure about. But let's say that our students definitely get excited when we have some type of an online game in the classroom. So digital skills are fundamental, but is the use this is my question. And teachers, any of you who are watching, I would love to hear your comments about this. Is the use of personal devices, tablets, but mostly I'm thinking of handheld smartphones, also video games, are they getting in the way of developing some of the fundamental hard and soft skills that, of course, is our job to bring to the classroom? Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, hard skills generally are referring to, let's say, knowledge, theory, technical skills. For example, I don't know, knowing how to write, okay, and this is like a hard skill. Knowing how to read, knowing how to, for example, run certain machinery. And then we have the soft skills, which are all of the intra and interpersonal skills. Intra meaning relationship with myself, and inter with others. And that includes everything connected to communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, conflict management. And what is it that you're noticing? What is this phone based childhood taking from what has been for throughout all of time for all primates a play-based childhood? So I see a lot of teachers, and when we talk about what's really going on in school, they often, one of the first things they talk about is that, well, that the kids seem less motivated, that they seem to lack concentration. Of course, all of us have a little more difficulty with focus. This is not just our students. We see it in ourselves. We even see it in the parents. And any of you who saw my interview with Nick Prawley last month, where we were talking about parent-teacher relationships, and I was talking about how that very first gaze that is so important, the original FaceTime between us and our infant child, that the human face is considered an infant's first toy, plaything, that we are hardwired to basically be fascinated with the human gaze, particularly of our caregiver. And if we are in a situation where instead of cooing at the infant, we are like this, and we are scrolling along with a blank face, this infant is going to be missing out immediately with this plaything, with learning about what it means to be human. So teachers are also observing that there is that the kids are easily bored, that sometimes even the preschool teachers talk about the fact that the little kids even make a little movement with their hands as though they want to scroll on to whatever is going on in the classroom. And there is a great need for instant gratification, entertainment. There's a lot of, the moment you are bored with anything, you just scroll on. And that's not what school is about. And then they're noticing this decrease in self-efficacy. Self-efficacy as in, I can do difficult things. I can overcome obstacles that are not too big, but not too small, but just enough so that when I find a way over it or around it or under it, I feel this incredible feeling of yes. Okay. So self-efficacy is very much connected to then a true feeling of self-esteem. And then there's definitely a spike in mental health issues all across the board. Maybe our students are showing a greater bit of knowledge. They have a lot of fun facts. They know a lot of things that perhaps when we were younger, we didn't have access to all of that information, but they might have a bit of shallow critical thinking, or not necessarily able to deep dive into something into these same topics. And of course, they're not always able to discern what is real from what is fake. But that's a problem we all have, isn't it? And overall, less comfort with face to face interaction and independent play. Now, teachers, those of you who are listening, which one of these are you noticing the most of? Or is there something that I'm not mentioning? Please feel free to comment, and we will and I will add it, because this is for you and about your experience. So let's see if anyone wants to share. I see my friend Anne. Hello, Anne. And so now, here's some of the bad news. All right, so the OECD, which is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, they are in charge of the dreaded PISA tests. I say the dreaded because I think that this is something that a lot of teachers really suffer with. However, these PISA tests, which is short for Program for International Student Assessment, okay, it basically is looking at a snapshot of 15-year-olds from 81 different countries. And it's not the kind of exam that you necessarily like study for and do a good job in. They try to give you real life situations and see how students are thinking. I mean, I'm summarizing it briefly, but that's the idea. So, of course, with all of its, let's say, with all of the controversy that sometimes surrounds this exam, if you look at this graph that I have here, I'm going to make this even bigger for you, because this is really something. Look at those curves. All right. Now, my face might be in the way here, but you can see that I'll make it even, I'll take myself out. You can see that the trend, the downward trend, of course, it's gotten much worse after the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we see that the trend was already going down even years before. So that's something to keep in mind, that this big drop is basically showing us, and it's across the board in math, reading, and science. So the OECD offered 10 different takeaways to help schools react to this unprecedented drop in performance. And for our purposes today, we're going to look at 3 of them. Build strong foundations for learning and well-being for all students. Limit the distractions caused by using digital devices in class. Strengthen school-family partnerships and keep parents involved in student learning. So shout out to Nick Prollins. And establish schools as hubs for social interaction. So this is basically what I think we can talk about today. I am not an ed tech expert. As I mentioned, I have my colleagues who are they are fantastic in offering different kinds of digital possibilities. But for me, it's going to be much more about the social and emotional aspects combined with some of the academics. So, then we also have the Future of Jobs report from 2023, which is part of the World Economic Forum. And I thought this was an interesting thing to add, because here we're showing the business's top 10 skills that they're imagining for 2027. And I also looked at what they are right now in 2023, what the projections are. And a lot of these are they're in the top 10, but just in a different order. But what is interesting for our purposes is that they are looking for a workforce with good analytical thinking, which of course is a big part of our critical thinking, creativity, leadership, and social influence. So we need to be good with People. We need to know how to speak to people. We need to know how to motivate people. Resilience, flexibility, and agility. So, resilience, which we talked about in my first live, and well being, where we need to think about what is it that helps us get over these obstacles, where we don't feel discouraged, where we don't just give up, but where we're aware of our internal and external resources. Curiosity and lifelong learning, motivation and self awareness, and empathy and active listening. So that lets me know that we've got our work cut out for us. Let's see if I can get out of the way here. This is, I skipped a slide. No, I didn't. Next topic is a tough one. It's upsetting. It's terrifying, actually, but it's reality. And this finding came from Common Sense Media. It's based in the US, but and so because the smartphone, let's say wave, hit probably US preteens maybe a bit earlier than some of the countries in the EU. But in any case, this is a snapshot of kind of what is happening globally, even though it's very possible that it was more so showing up even more in the United States because of the fact that they have had this smartphone use for a longer period of time. In any case, 41% of students, this is in 2022, reported seeing pornography during the school day. And 44% of these teens, 44% of this 41%, reported viewing pornography on school-owned devices. And then we have 31% of this group during the school day viewed pornography while attending school in person. Now, obviously, this is a big job for digital safety and security. There is a lot that can be done about trying to make sure that our students are not just, going online with school-owned devices and just doing whatever they want. But this is something, in any case, even if schools are able to get locked into a secure network outside of school, these kids are seeing this. For many of our young children, this is their introduction to sexuality. This is their introduction to when they are looking for what does it mean to fall in love and have a partner. So this is something that is part of their experience, but that they are living kind of like in silence. It's not being processed. And this is a huge topic. Some school systems, of course, have they have excellent programs in providing accurate information and talking a bit more openly about this. And then we have some school systems in some countries that can't even go near it. They can't even talk about it because the families get upset and say, that's not the school's job. And the schools get upset saying, that's the parent's job. And so no one is really talking about this. So where are we? What are governments and schools doing? Quite controversial. However, at this moment, we have, as of September 24th, Italy, Spain, and Albania are European countries that basically already had smartphone bans in school. Now, this is what the law says. Then what is actually happening, that is a different story. But just so we are looking, legislatively, what is happening. Then the Netherlands, Hungary, France, and Greece have just implemented one. Belgium, Finland, and Ireland were in the process as of September 24. And then there are in Poland, Germany, Denmark, Switzerland, Portugal, and Croatia. They are basically leaving it up to individual schools with the autonomy to be able to decide. So this is uh, what is happening, then we have some very interesting things here. This is Jonathan Haidt. Now, perhaps you have seen him around. Jonathan Haidt is a sociology professor at NYU, and he is the author of the 2024 publication, The Anxious Generation: How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Creating an Epidemic of Mental Illness. And his book, in spite of this quite dramatic title, he is actually a very reassuring person. I would encourage any of you to, you can see lots of podcasts with him. He has been all over the media, and we will talk more about the interesting things that he is doing together with other researchers. But he basically is proposing, and this is something that I want us to think about even together. He is proposing 4 fundamental shifts. One is he proposes for us to say no smartphones to our kids before high school. Because he says, we need collective action on this. It cannot be left up to individual families who then have to argue with their kids about what they can do, what they can't do. It's very difficult for a preteen to be the only one who doesn't have XYZ. Anyone who who's ever had a preteen knows that the preteen is looking for a new tribe. They want nothing more than to belong. So Jonathan Haidt, he understands this problem and says, okay, then this needs to be collective action. All you need is to get together with some of the other parents. Let's say when the kids are in elementary school, and say, let's talk about this. What shall we do? I'm going to give my kid a flip phone. Flip phone is the ones that open and close like that we used to have, or a not so smartphone, or even some of them are opting for an Apple Watch or something like that, where there would be a lot of limitations, and they just would have it to be able to text and call. So what he has seen in his research is that if you have a small group of kids in every class, though, who don't have a smartphone, you don't have that one that is all by himself. Then he also proposes no social media before 16. Now, no social media before 16, as we see, what's happening in Australia is that just in the last 10 days, there was legislation passed about that, where they basically were banning social media for anyone under 16. Once again, I understand that legislation is not the same as what people will actually do, but it's sending a very strong message. What Jonathan Haidt is saying is that we have never had such a high incidence of depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, self-harm in these young people. And there is a direct correlation, according to his research, with their social media use. He also claims that by delaying it, he says 16 is still not very old, but it's better than when they are 8 years old. And they basically lie about their age. And they can get on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, no problem at all. And the problem is that they see things, they hear things, they are experiencing things without any true adult to help process all of the things that they are encountering. So he also recommends phone-free schools. He doesn't say tech-free schools, because you could have the school devices, but he recommends that that the kids leave their phones at home and just get used to that they would have them after school. And he also says, if you're going to take something from these young people, you have to give something back. And the thing that he claims that we should give back is some independence. Particularly in the United States, where he has done the bulk of his research, but throughout the English-speaking world, what has happened is there is greater overprotection on the part of parents, and there is a heightened sense of danger about what is going on outside of the home. And for parents, this was fantastic. He's on his tablet, he's on his computer, he's playing, video games in his room. She's on her phone, and she's home. And so I know where he or she is. I can keep an eye on my child, and that gives the illusion of safety. Whereas what we are realizing is that we have perhaps overestimated the kind of danger that there is outside of the home and underestimated the kind of danger that might be in our homes, on these screens. So I want to propose some ideas for us. Because regardless of what you are doing, they are a huge part of our kids' lives. So we can work with students in school to process, to narrate, to problem solve, to study the impact of social media and personal devices. And let's see here. This is something that is coming from the research of Peter Gray and Jonathan Haidt, and it is from an organization called Let Grow. I have put in the comments, not in the comments, I put in the description of the live a lot of these links in case you're interested in knowing more about them for your schools or for your families. So in the Let Grow experience, very simply, we teachers can give children or preteens or even teens an assignment every week to do something outside of school by themselves that they've never done before. It could be something as simple as going to the store to buy something. It could be bicycling to their friend's house, maybe walking home from school instead of being picked up. And in Jonathan Haidt's case, he actually had his child take the New York subway home from school. And now, what the research is showing is that by letting the kids think about, maybe it's something even simple like baking a cake, okay, finding a recipe and having the experience of trial and error, of perhaps making a mistake, of having all of the flour fall all over the place, but that you realize that mistakes can happen and that you can manage it. And so it kind of breaks that cycle of parental overprotection that really kind of keeps the kids in a cage. And since it's a school assignment, parents can't just automatically say no. I mean, I realize that some parents will just say no. But when it's a school assignment, and what happens is then parents and children can spend some time together listening to each other and negotiating the task. And it's a form of exposure therapy. Everyone confronts some degree of fear and anxiety in this process, and they live to tell about it. So now it seems less scary. And because all of the kids are doing it, parents don't feel like they're somehow being negligent. It's this idea, because this is a big problem in some countries where children, if they're around by themselves, it looks a little odd, okay? And parents then worry that they will be judged for that. But if you have a whole, if you have classrooms of children having these kinds of experiences, it's it's been a very successful program. And then the next thing that they have tried is called the Play Club. So the Play Club is just basically, and it's an either before school or after school experience where kids come to school to play. It's independent play. And the adults who are supervising it actually need to be trained to not intervene, to just let it go. the very interesting thing about it is that it's mixed age groups. They were talking about how in some schools it's even like 100 kids, and that's either in the gymnasium or in the schoolyard. But in any case, there is adult supervision. But Peter Gray, who is a professor of psychology at Boston College, he describes this as, he says, the only rule during play club is don't hurt anybody and don't deliberately break anything that is valuable. That's it. And the teachers who monitor are told that play is for the children to solve their own problems. Do not intervene in it unless there's a real emergency. Because Peter Gray, he says that play is children's work. And he also quoted another play expert who said that play is not the opposite of work. Play is the opposite of depression. And so Peter Gray then goes on to say, so it's no wonder that having taken so much independent play out of childhood, that kids are a bit sad. And so in the play club, what they found is that they might be, let's say, they are happy. They are also unhappy sometimes. They have their different relational dynamics that they have to navigate, but that it helps them become competent socially. Remember when we were talking about their social abilities, their leadership abilities, their listening skills, their empathy. How will they learn these things if they don't experience them in school and even outside of school? Because when they leave school, many times they are either in programmed after-school activities where there is still a coach or an instructor who is telling them how to do things and what to do at what time, at what place. And if they have free time, they are maybe scrolling TikTok videos to relax. And so what Peter Gray claims is here we've taken recess out of schools. We have taken a proper lunchtime out of schools many times because we need all of this academic time. And then we have to add in more school psychologists and counselors and social and emotional learning courses to make up for things that would have maybe been cared for, just giving them some more independence, some more time to just play. Teachers who are listening, what do you think about that? Do you have any pushback? Does this make sense? Do you say, no, it won't work? I want to hear what you have to say. Let's see here. And then, this is another thing that is really helpful for us, is to think that the problem belongs to all of us, and so will the solution. Meaning, teachers are spending so much of their precious time and energy policing a lot of their students' mobile phone use. Raise your hand if that's true. How much of your time is spent in making sure that the kids are they're not using their devices to cheat, that they're not taking videos of you, that they're not, cyberbullying each other, or they're not just simply, buying something on Amazon. So we need, once again, to think in terms of collective action. And since the problem belongs to all of us, we can, with the students, create cell phone-free spaces. Now, these could be physical spaces in the school. They could be time spaces, meaning that there are certain moments when you can have it and certain moments when we're not going to have it, but we're going to talk about it together. Because let me be honest with you, these kids are really kind of wondering why they have been given, as I said in the reel, this sort of magic pass to the universe. and they can't even go to the store by themselves to buy some milk. But why is it that they can go absolutely anywhere in the universe with anyone? So this phone-free space regards everyone in the school community, right? So it's also for us. It's to make sure that teachers are not also immediately, feeling the need to jump on their phones. And we all have those colleagues who also have a little bit of difficulty with their own cell phone addiction. And we can address this issue directly and firmly and consistently. If there is a certain rule, a simple rule, that is what it is. But it's very complicated in some schools because there is no rule, or the rule changes, or it depends on whose class you're in. Instead, consistency is key. Kids, they want that container, even if it means they want to fight against it. But it's okay to push against it. It doesn't mean that it's not working. It means that they are healthy teens who are trying to in some way have their own autonomy. At the same time, we can discuss these classroom norms, and it will take time. Many teachers say, I don't have time. And my question is, then how much time do you spend on policing this behavior during the year? Maybe we need to spend that time in the beginning of the year establishing a very clear, consistent policy that will save you a lot of arguing during the year. And the collective action solution involving the students, this is something that helps with student buy-in. So I think that that's something that we need to think about. So as we move on, how can we incorporate these into academics? So based on the ages of your students, if you're a history teacher, they can create tech timelines of their firsts with tech. Could be like, I don't know, the first phone, or it could be when I first started, I don't know, playing a certain game that I fell in love with on a tablet, but where they can sort of reconstruct their personal history, especially for younger children. That's a very typical history assignment when they're first learning about history, is they try to learn about what came first, what came next. About, first I was a baby, then I was a toddler, then I was a preschooler, and showing the development of their lives. And they can do that even referencing technology. Then they could, if they're older, they could even design and guide like a tech exhibit for obsolete items. That could be really cool for them, actually. And in a way where they could kind of see how things are progressing and how quickly they progressed, how much longer it took for items to become obsolete in the past and how quick it is now. They could even examine some of the ethics of it, of do we really need a new phone every 3 years? And what kinds of things happen that make us believe that we need to have new phones? And where do our old phones go? But that would be probably outside of the history lesson. They could examine when other technologies also disrupted society, right? Writing or the printing press or telephones, and seeing how society navigated this moment that for some people seemed kind of like, I don't know, the end of the world. And how interesting would it be for them to reflect on the future? Maybe try to predict it. They could have conversations amongst themselves first where they think about where do they think that this technology is going, and what will it be like if they were to have a 10-year reunion. And you could actually do that with them. They could have a 10-year reunion where they all come back and they have a conversation about what they're doing and all the things that they're actually really surprised that they were able to get away with when they were teens, and think about what was their experience with tech. And it's also interesting for them to think about, just in general, what classrooms of the future will look like. If we're a math teacher, you can there's so many interesting ways that we can integrate this by saying, well, what about if we had to examine those eye-opening statistics that are related to cell phone use? I mean, I get a notification every Monday about how terrible I've been with my cell phone use, and I'm sure most people get it. And so couldn't that be an interesting way, instead of feeling kind of ashamed about it, could students create pie graphs or tables showing how much time, of course, your phone often does it, but could they also examine it, see how much time they're spending on different apps? They could even put together class statistics, and they could create class-wide or school-wide challenges to like try to decrease the minutes or hours even that they spend on their phones and increase in other activities. And they could also um, share these statistics with other subjects in the school. Thinking of psychology, sociology, civics. Some of you also have lessons on things like digital citizenship, information technology. And it could become a really interesting cross pollination, because in seeing, for example, if they try to maybe understand the percentage, at what point do they start feeling a bit differently? And that could be a very interesting research item for example, in a psychology class or a sociology class. And in science, there are so many things that we can talk about. Here, I'm just including a little something from a website called Kids, Brains, and Screens. So it's kidsbrainsandScreens.com. They have lesson plans that you can just incorporate into your classroom, all about turning like science lessons into a place where you understand our neurobiology and how the brain systems are, and how smartphone use shapes our brains. Once again, without lecturing or making them feel ashamed, this is a problem we all have. Let's at least provide them with some very interesting information that they can then use to make their own decisions about it. And this was just an idea of a lesson plan where they learn about the different vocabulary of the different brain systems. And I thought it was very well done. And I would encourage any teachers, science teachers who, or even not, this would be great for, for class teachers as well, that have more of like let's say they have class time every week to talk about different topics. And then some ideas for literacy, or let's say it could even be in foreign language. For this, this is coming from the Center for Humane Technology. Now, this organization is the organization that produced the documentary, the 2020 documentary, The Social Dilemma, that I think most of us have seen. Terrifying. And this activity would offer our students a place to really reflect in deeply about what their use is like. So, okay, let's think about this. It could be a journal. It could be a think, pair, share, where, of course, first I'm going to reflect on it. Then the teacher might even have everyone reflect on a question where they write down a few words on a piece of paper. And then the teacher will have everyone stand up and turn on some music, get them moving around the classroom. And then when the music stops, they have to grab a person that's closest to them and ask that person that question. Questions like, what are some reasons that you use social media? And a lot of times, what we use it for great reasons. There's a lot of good reasons to be on social media, but it can also be an escape. It can be an escape from very important but not so pleasant emotions like boredom or sadness. loneliness, emotions that maybe need to be processed in a different way instead of just, let's say, distracted. So things like you could even create a mind map about them, a vision board. There could be a role play about it. Imagine, like a role play where people are, I don't know, maybe they have an experience where something that we've done sometimes in my lessons where I will have people talking. I'll have, I'll tell this person, okay, you're going to listen, and and the person who speaks does not know that the listener was given a certain task from me. And the task is that after about a minute of listening, this person is supposed to start checking their phone a little bit and just kind of like then putting it back down and then just like, maybe checking it again. And then we stop the action and we ask the speaker, how do you feel? And the speaker will usually say, well, I feel kind of embarrassed, or I feel a little angry, or I feel annoyed. And it gets us really reflecting on, in that self-awareness, that's part of the future of jobs. What does it mean? What am I communicating with my body language? What is it that when I'm not giving my full attention, what happens to the quality of the relationship? Things like, what are some unwanted impacts that social media has on your life? Or what do you wish you had more time for in your day to day life? What big goals are you working towards? And what are some behaviors you'd love to improve? Really thought provoking questions. Once again, they could be essays, they could be talked about in face to face conversations. It could become a public safety awareness announcement. There are no limits to our 4C's creativity. Some ideas about empathy, helping them understand a bit about the cruelty that there is sometimes behind some of our cell phone use, and how we can stand up for each other. And basically, I was thinking about the fact that you can even encourage things like what they call a digital detox or breaking up with your phone. You can have the kids do things like where there's something called risky learning. And risky learning is something where it's like in some outdoor learning that where students would be able to experience the outdoors, of course, with adult supervision, but where they are actually experiencing what it means to run and jump and tumble and roll and climb in a way that they are not necessarily getting outside. In these schools used to be places where we would say, sit still, be quiet. And now our whole role is changing into something like stand up and make noise, because it's not happening necessarily outside of school. And so, are we ready to embrace that challenge? I'm pretty excited. There are so many ideas, and I want to invite you to my next talk, where I will be meeting with Miriam Stewart. And she is a Europass trainer at the Dublin Academy, and she is an embodied learning expert. And she has a lot of experience in using drama in education and humor in the classroom. And she is full of great practical. Some of them are easy ideas, and some of them are very thought-provoking in how to bring more of this into our classrooms. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that you're coming away with some new thoughts, and I would be very curious to hear in the comments anything else that you want to know about this topic, or anything that you're doing in your school that seems to be working particularly well. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.